Whispers in the Shadows, Episode 1. The road to Black Hollow stretched long and desolate, lined with gnarled trees that seemed to claw at the twilight sky. Maya Hartfield tightened her grip on the steering wheel as the town's welcome sign loomed into view, its chipped paint barely legible. Black Hollow. A place to call home. Her radio, tuned to static for miles, suddenly cut to silence. Maya glanced at the rearview mirror, empty, save for the reflection of the dimming sky. Still, unease prickled her spine. She shook it off. The house stood just as she remembered it from her childhood, an aging Victorian with weathered shutters and a sagging porch. It had been years since she'd stepped foot in Black Hollow. The thought of returning to care for her estranged, ailing mother hadn't crossed her mind until the hospital called last week. Now, here she was, suitcase in hand and heart heavy with reluctance. Inside, the air was thick, musty, and eerily still. Maya found her mother, Dottie, in the upstairs bedroom, confined to a rickety bed. Her once vibrant face was pale, her eyes sunken but alert. "Maya," Dottie croaked, her voice like sandpaper, "you shouldn't have come back." "Nice to see you too, Mom," Maya said, forcing a smile. "I'm here to help." Dottie's frail hand shot out, gripping Maya's wrist with surprising strength. "It's awake now," she whispered, her eyes darting to the shadowed corners of the room. "It watches." Maya pulled away, unsettled. "You've been alone too long. You're imagining things." Dottie didn't respond. Her gaze remained fixed on the darkness, lips moving silently. That night, Maya roamed the house. The familiar creaks of the floorboards beneath her feet should have been comforting, but something felt off. The family photos that once lined the walls were gone, replaced by crude, haunting paintings of shadowy figures amidst trees. She stopped in front of the attic door, slightly ajar. Curiosity gnawed at her, and she pushed it open. Dust motes floated in the beam of her flashlight as she stepped inside. In the corner, she spotted a small, ancient-looking tape recorder atop a table. She pressed play. At first, there was static. Then, her mother's voice. "They said it was just an old wives' tale. But I've seen it. In the shadows. It never forgives, Maya. Never forgets." Before she could process the words, a loud thud sounded behind her. Maya spun around, heart racing. The hallway was empty. The next day, Maya ventured into the town square for supplies. Black Hollow hadn't changed much, same dilapidated buildings, same suspicious stares from the locals. As she exited the general store, a man approached her. He was tall, with rough hands and a cautious smile. "Caleb Hayes," he introduced himself. "I do odd jobs around town. Heard you're staying at the Hartfield place." "News travels fast," Maya replied. "Small town," Caleb said, his tone more wary than friendly. "That house has history." "Yeah, so does this town." He hesitated, then leaned in slightly. "Just be careful at night. Things can feel a little different." Maya frowned. Different how? But Caleb just tipped his hat and walked away. That night, sleep eluded her. The house groaned and creaked, the noises unnervingly rhythmic. Around midnight, she heard faint whispers outside her bedroom window. She approached the window cautiously and pulled back the curtain. At the edge of the woods, a figure stood motionless, half hidden in the shadows. Her breath hitched. She grabbed her phone and dialed Caleb. Minutes later, he arrived, flashlight in hand. By then, the figure was gone, but deep footprints led into the woods. "I've never seen tracks like these," Caleb muttered, crouching to inspect them. "Whatever it was," he added, glancing at her, "it's not human." Despite Caleb's protests, Maya insisted on following the trail. The footprints led to a hidden clearing deep in the woods. In the center stood an ancient stone monument, covered in strange symbols that seemed to writhe in the moonlight. "This wasn't here before," Caleb said, his voice barely above a whisper. Before Maya could respond, a sudden gust of wind extinguished their flashlight. The whispers returned, louder this time, surrounding them. "Run," Caleb hissed, grabbing her arm. But before they could move, the ground beneath the monument cracked open, releasing a low, guttural sound that wasn't entirely of this world. Back in the house, Maya sat on the edge of her mother's bed, clutching the tape recorder. She pressed play again. This time, Dottie's voice was frantic. "It doesn't want me, it wants her. She's the reason it's here." Maya's blood ran cold as realization dawned. The tape ended with a single, chilling word. Run. The camera pans to a shadow creeping into the corner of the room as the screen fades to black.